The Alien franchise, what a weird franchise to talk about because it's one of those franchises that has some of the best movies you'll ever see, but also some of the worst movies you'll ever see. Such a mixed bag, so back and forth, so up and down. If I use this a certain way, it will kill me? Is that what they're saying? I don't know if I like the sound of that. I thought it would make the most sense right now to rank the Alien films. Obviously, this is my opinion, this is my list, my thoughts. Let's start this list off with number 9, the bottom of the barrel. Of course, it's Alien 3. I mean, I know some people probably would have other films at the bottom, and rightfully so. I can definitely understand that. But for me personally, Alien 3 gets so much wrong. Right off the bat, at the very beginning, them killing off Newt and Michael Bean's character. I've never quite gotten over that. I remember watching these movies for the first time, and obviously the way the second one ends, you're at such a high, and you just can't wait to see what happens to your favorite characters, the dynamics, and how close they all became. And to start the next film with just, hey, remember all of that you cared about and loved and was super attached to? Well, it's done. It's gone. They're dead. Those characters are dead, and the only character left is Ripley. And it's heartbreaking. The fact that there was talk at one point to disregard this movie and do a sequel that it just is in replace of this goes to show how many people share that same thing. Even if you just go off of the movie going forward, right? You have Ripley at this random monk community, some temple place, and she has to join them, shave her head, and survive yet another alien that comes and ravages this crew. It's the least creative way to get Ripley's character back into the mix, get her back into going up against an alien. Given how badass she was previously, it feels like a major step backwards for her. And then the end of the movie, they killed her off. Now, the director, David Fincher, is one of my favorite directors of all time. He's made some of my favorite movies of all time. If you look at his filmography, it's like, holy shit, this same guy made Alien 3. This is early in his career, and I fully do believe that studio interference and that supposedly there's a director's cut, but honestly, I'm not sure, given how much is still there, that saves this film. Let's go to number 8, Alien Resurrection, another film that just sort of loses the point of at least what I found most interesting in the Alien films. I mean, I know we're so far into the future that's where we get very weird and wacky with technology, at least in the film canon technology. You have this new crew that I like a lot of the actors that are in here, but some of the decisions and some of the choices that they make just really blows my mind. But the biggest decision that I'm kind of like, what the fuck? I know they probably regretted killing Sigourney Weaver off. In fact, I think Sigourney Weaver only did the third movie, unless they killed her off, and they did. But somehow they paid her a shitload of money to come back one more time, this time as a clone. I never really like the idea of cloning characters, and because this isn't the real Ripley and she acts as weird as she does, it's to me it's not worth it. It's not really worth going through the hassle of trying to explain how you brought her back. And also the whole weird new evolution or creation of an alien, the white alien at the end of this was just I don't like what they do at all in this movie. At number 7, Alien Covenant. And honestly, I'm not going to say that it's the very like worse or even worse than some of the films I have before it on a technical level, right? From a filmmaking point of view, I think it's actually okay. It's a decent watch, but the issues that I have with Alien Covenant makes it very forgettable makes it so that I haven't rewatched it since the theater. Like, it's a very forgettable movie. It's a movie that I never cared to go back on. But the biggest takeaways that I got from this movie is they killed off Noomi Rapace, who, say what you want to say about Prometheus, but she was alive. She stayed alive. There was so much to do that you could have done with an actress of the caliber of Noomi Rapace, and to kill her off is so dumb and so mishandled. It blew my mind when they revealed that. And also Michael Fassbender kissing the clone version of Michael Fassbender was the weirdest thing that I sat through in the theater with and just thought to myself, this is fucking weird, Ridley Scott. What are you doing? I know that because of Prometheus, they felt the need to have more of the xenomorph itself in the film. And sure, there's some decent kills with that and whatnot, but for me, it took too long to get there. For me, there was too much bullshit in order to get to what people were really there for. Number 6, Alien versus Predator Requiem. I know. I have it this high on the list, number 6. Most people would have Alien versus Predator Requiem at the bottom, the very last one. And I understand that. This isn't me defending this movie. This isn't me trying to convince you that it's actually better than whatever you think of it. It's just me saying I have the utmost guiltiest pleasure watching this movie. It's so bad, it's good to me. They kind of take the Alien vs. Predator franchise, or just the two different franchises, and they create a teen slasher out of it. It's sort of wild. It blows my mind that they did this. I kind of like the fact that it takes place on Earth. I like the fact that the characters are dumb teenagers that do dumb things, so when they get killed, you don't really care. But mostly it's the Predator itself, just that as an entity, as a creature, is always badass to me. The fact that it's gone to Earth to not only hunt down other aliens, but it's hunting down the Predalien, the hybrid of Alien and Predator. And so, look, is it silly? Is it goofy? Yes. Is there a lot of things in this movie that probably make you never want to watch an Alien or Predator movie ever again? I understand all of that, but I get a sick enjoyment anytime I put this on. That brings me to number 5, which is the first Alien vs. Predator. Once again, not a movie that is per se good on a lot of technical levels. I have this on this list because at the time, it blew my mind that we were getting an Alien vs. Predator movie. And when this came out, I mean, I was still pretty young. I was in high school. It wasn't like I was the biggest fan of the franchises, but I was aware of them. I had seen Predator. I had seen the Alien movies. So I at least had enough understanding to realize this was a big deal. Just the idea. Anytime you do a versus movie of two different franchises coming together, it's a big deal. And when you watch it, it's like they're trying to tell a story here. They're trying to connect the two franchises and make all of this make sense. But ultimately, what you're here for, you don't care about the humans. You don't care about them being in Alaska or the pyramids. You just want to see the aliens and predators fight. And you do get that. You get enough of that, I think, to satisfy me. Number 4, Prometheus. And I would love a universe where this movie was number 1, because think about it. The big deal was that Ridley Scott was coming back home. He was coming back to the franchise that he created. He made the first movie, and so you thought, well, if he came back to do a prequel, how could this fail? And when you watch the film, I mean, maybe you don't think visually it makes as much sense to take place in the same universe as Aliens, but I think the visuals are insane. The cinematography is sort of breathtaking. It's very memorable, and I think Ridley Scott uses the special effects to his advantage when it comes to all that stuff. The cast is great as well. I mentioned Noomi Rapace and Michael Fassbender before. They're great here. Charlize Theron, maybe not a likable character, but she's a great actress. And Idris Elba, just being the pilot of the ship, I always thought was cool. Guy Pearce in a weird role, and I can go on and on with this cast. It's pretty wild how many great actors were in this. But the biggest issue probably is that there's too much going on, right? Plot-wise, story-wise, concept-wise, there's too much big ideas. There's too much high concept theories that I think Ridley Scott maybe personally had thoughts of, and so he just wanted to bring them into this franchise and sort of answer questions that honestly I never really had. I know the engineers was this big thing talked about from the first movie, but I never really cared about their story. I never really cared about finding out who they were. And to reveal that there are these giant white aliens that supposedly are the creators of all life going forward, it just, I don't know. I mean, it's somewhat interesting, but I think ultimately falls flat. And I think at the end of the day, when you get to the end of the movie, you sort of scratch your head wondering, what was the point of all this? At number 3, Alien Romulus. I love a lot about this movie. I do. I think Fede Alvarez directing this, sort of trying to bring this franchise back on track. I think he does a great job with building tension and atmosphere and creating dread when you're sort of trying to figure out what the hell is going to happen next in a suspense way. I think the cast is good, but especially the main two actors, Kaylee Spaney and David Johnson, I just thought they were phenomenal and definitely the heart of the movie. The practical effects, given that we're so ingratiated with CGI being overload in a lot of these movies, it's so refreshing. It feels new again to get practical effects, to get these face huggers that were scary as all hell, and the xenomorphs once again looking like the way that they should look. I think all of that is so effective. I talked about in my review how much I hated the last 15 minutes of this movie, and I still do. Even the more I think about it, I think the movie falls apart. Obviously, I think the movie is good enough. I think there is enough good in there. 75 to 80% of the movie is good enough to be at the number 3 spot. But for me, the reason why it's not anywhere near the top 2 is because of how it just takes a sharp left turn. And honestly, it takes the worst ideas from Prometheus and Alien Resurrection of all films and combines that into this. Number 2, and I could go back and forth on this, given what kind of day I'm having, what kind of mood I'm in, you could convince me that it's the other way around. But today I'm going to say the first Alien movie, the original Alien movie. I think Ridley Scott does a great job just creating this tone and this atmosphere of dread because you don't know what this crew is going to find, what trouble is lurking ahead. I mean, we build this tension. We set the stage for what's about to happen to them slowly but surely. And then once shit hits the fan, I mean, that first facehugger scene, my God, it was iconic. It creates what we now know as far as what happens and the aesthetics of how these aliens work, their biology. And then the whole movie being somewhat of a bottle film. I love that we spend time with the crew, get to know them like on a personal level, so that when they do start getting killed off, we care about them. We feel bad. We actually sit there and say, this sucks. Because I liked Yaphet Kotto. But also the fact that it was only one xenomorph throughout this entire film that was the creature, that was the big bad, goes to show that you don't need an army, you don't need more than one. You can tell a cohesive, scary story with just one alien and one crew. But that brings me to my favorite Alien film in the franchise. Kind of contradicts what I just said, but not really. It's Aliens, directed by James Cameron. And if you're going to do a sequel, try something different. And when I say different, I don't say just because it's different, it's better. No, I'm saying what they do different is better or is awesome. The action route is something that makes the most sense. Instead of just recreating the horror style that Ridley Scott did, instead of just trying to recreate iconic scenes or recreate iconic lines, how about you create your own? Which is what James Cameron did with this action, and the fact that you really see what these aliens are about and how they work as almost an ant-like colony. The fact that they have a queen and that there's so many xenomorphs that this military group has to deal with, and also the characters that we get to meet. Bill Paxton, of course, is a big standout, bringing in his own humor, and a lot of these characters feel like real people, even though their soldiers. Michael Biehn as well. It's not a James Cameron movie unless Michael Biehn shows up to be a hero. And also Newt. I mentioned earlier how much it disappoints me what Alien 3 does with them. And a big reason why it disappoints me is because of how well the relationship and dynamic between Newt and Ripley is built up here. The fact that Ripley went through what she went through in the first film, wakes up out of cryosleep and finds out that she's been out for like over 200 years, completely missed her daughter's entire life. Her daughter is now dead from old age. So Newt is a character that can become a surrogate daughter to her. She at least looks at her as a daughter-like figure. And how we don't follow through with that anymore is pretty mind-blowing to me. Ripley also, Sigourney Weaver, this is her best performance because she is now a fighter. She's not just a survivor. She's not just somebody who maybe kind of got lucky. No, she's somebody who is proactive, who is not afraid anymore. Of course, she does the iconic moment where she does fight the queen. She does have that outfit, that robot suit that she just, I mean, what more do you have to do to build up a character, not even just a female character, a character in general, and build them up as a badass? So guys, let me know in the comments below, what do you think of my list, and also what are your favorite Alien movies from best to worst? Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Later.